para falar sobre como líderes cercam-se de pessoas de alta performance, no palco da Expo Gestão 2008, Patrick Sweeney.
Thank you, Olá, bom dia. I've been looking so forward to being here with you today and sharing with you some of the ways you can hire and develop people who are obsessed with succeeding. It all starts and stops with who we surround ourselves with. In order to hire effectively, you have to start out by knowing what distinguishes your best employees from the rest. What do they have that the others lack? What are they really made of? What qualities do they possess? What drives them to succeed? We asked over 200 presidents of companies, what are the key qualities that you would like all of your top performers to possess? The top two answers were resilience and optimism. We have found that by the time someone is old enough to apply for a job, they either have a positive attitude or they don't. And I've personally come to believe that it is not our jobs as managers to try to change people. As managers, our job is to recognize their potential and to develop it. You should hire based on someone's potential. Now, I've also considered myself to be an optimistic person, but when you meet someone who defines that quality, who takes it to another level, then they inspire you to think about yourself in a whole new way. I want to tell you about such a person. Janet Lasley told me that her husband says that her optimism borders on the delusional. I love that phrase. I'm taking you back now to the late 1980s, when Janet was a young woman ready to graduate from high school. Her parents wanted her to go to college, but Janet wanted to start her own construction company. Their arguments were long and tough. Still, Janet's optimism shone through when, in the middle of a heated argument about her future, she said to her parents, "Why don't we try it this way? Give me a year. Take the money you'd spend sending me to college and invest it in my company. Give me just 1 year. If at the end of that year I don't make it, I'll carry on as you wish. If I don't, I'll go to college." Now, what were her parents to do? Her optimism was shining through, and it won the day. The first job she bid on was replacing a roof. And after the bids were submitted, the foreman who was managing the job came to Janet, and he said, "I don't know what else to do except to be completely honest with you, Janet." He said, "You had the lowest bid, but I just don't feel comfortable giving a roofing job to a woman." Then he honestly said to her, "If it was remodeling a kitchen, I'd hire you in a heartbeat. I just feel that a guy should do a roof." Now, this guy obviously didn't have diversity training. Well, Janet's optimism got her through losing out on her first bid. Her optimism has taken her on to create a company that creates buildings that Michael Graves and other incredible architects have designed. But her optimism kicked into high gear when she developed a very rare form of cancer, one that I have a difficult time pronouncing, and the one that has a very low cure rate. Allow me to read to you and share with you what was going on through Janet's mind when she got this cancer. Janet said, "Gradually, things started to happen, and I started to picture myself as a fox. All I was doing," Janet said, "was running from one forest to the next, trying to keep myself from the dogs that were baying at my heels. I didn't feel like I had to conquer this disease totally. I didn't have to do anything that seemed unreasonable or unrealistic. I just had to stay ahead. So I kept running. And then things opened up. One time I had a tumor that was getting out of hand," Janet said, "and the doctor at Sloan Kettering said to me, 'We have a new chemo we're introducing at 4 o'clock this afternoon.' And it was what I needed. So I got another couple months, then another year." At this point, the fox was leading the way. It seemed like she might be able to beat this thing. Her optimism in the face of death was turning into optimism in the possibility of life. And that was over 10 years ago now. and Janet is doing very well. Janet's optimism has taught me how to magnify my own, and I'm extremely grateful to her for that. Because you see, I was raised to be a very polite young man, and throughout my life, I've come to realize that I have politely wasted a lot of my time on pessimists. You know what I mean? Okay, I'll be honest with you. In the beginning, I thought that I might have the power to say the right thing that would somehow magically turn their world around. But since then, I've come to realize that pessimists aren't really interested in changing. They just want to complain, to criticize, to share their doomsday predictions with anyone who walks by and will listen to them. So now, I just walk by. When they approach me with another one of their negative ideas, I just say, you know, that's interesting, but I'm in the middle of something else right now, and I just disappear, literally. Sometimes I'll even wave to them because they really don't need me, and I've finally come to discover that I really don't need them. I don't need to recover anymore from their negative energy, to literally have to shake it off, to walk around to try to get to where I was before they led me astray. Now I just dodge their bullets and I continue on my way, and I thank Janet for this. She's taught me that life is too short to be wasted on pessimists. The message in terms of hiring people who are consumed with succeeding is to look for optimists and avoid pessimists. Let me share with you one last story from the latest book Herb and I wrote together about someone whose lesson I carry with me. This is a story of a man who kept saying, "I do not know how others will get anything from my story. My experiences were not from this world," he said, and they were not. Still, I carry his story with me, and I want to share it with you. Because like all good stories, we will each hear it in a different way, and it will have a different meaning for all of us. Samuel Pizarro was an advisor to 5 presidents, starting with President Kennedy. I'm going to take you back now to when he was 14 years old in Auschwitz. He was watching Dr. Joseph Mengele, the angel of death, inhaling on a cigarette as he motioned for the prisoners to move to the left and the right. A random puff on that cigarette might send you one way instead of the other, knowing that one of the lines would lead to the gas chamber. Samuel found himself in the wrong line. He said he had resigned himself to his life being over. He said, "I had this slight sinking feeling of nausea in the pit of my stomach. Otherwise," he said, "I felt almost reconciled to my fate." Then on the wall, he saw a bucket and a brush, and he started moving towards them. Then reaching into the bucket, he wet the brush, and he began cleaning the floor. On his knees, he scrubbed as hard as he could, going over one section thoroughly, then sliding down to the next, as if it was his job, as if his life depended upon it. After he doesn't know how long, he moved his way back to the entrance when he heard a click, and he looked up to see a Nazi soldier pointing a gun at him, saying, "Boy, do you call this clean?" "No, sir," he immediately responded. Then he put his head back down and he scrubbed with all his might until his arms hurt so much that he couldn't move anymore. Then he looked up, and the soldier was gone. And Samuel took the brush and he put it in the bucket, and he carried the bucket out into the open, into the light of day, and Samuel vanished into the crowd. Samuel saw things in that bucket that most of us would not. How many of us could see that bucket as anything but a container for holding water? How many of us could have seen it as the answer to a question that we hadn't even asked, as something that could have saved our lives? Samuel saw it as his way out. How many of us would have ignored that bucket? I keep coming back to that and asking myself that question and wondering. Samuel kept saying, I don't know what others will get from my story. For me, his story leaves me asking, can I see answers in places that others would not? And then do I have the guts to pull it off? Can we recognize those who have that quality, who are able to see things as more than they are, who can look past the surface and see things in a deeper way, things that the rest of us might miss? Can we find that in ourselves and surround ourselves with people who are striving to get there? If you're looking to hire someone who can follow the rules, that's simple. But discovering an employee who can grow with your company, that's a whole other thing. What you're really looking for are to hire people who can recognize possibilities when others think that none exist. We're looking for that in others and in ourselves. Don't focus on your or an applicant's or employee's weaknesses. Instead, focus on your strengths and their potential, on what you and what they can become, and magnify that. Turn up the volume on that potential. That's what you want to know. That's why there's always an image of flowers on the package of seeds. We don't really care what the seeds look like. We want to know what they'll become. If I could leave you with one last thought, it would be this. Open up your hiring process, open your doors, and open yourself to uncovering and developing the potential of individuals. We have found that the real winners in this world are those individuals who know who they are and they know how to play to their strengths. And they are willing to take a risk on someone else's potential. Find that in yourself, look for that in others, and you will be well on your way to surrounding yourself with top performers. Thank you.